beiden Dieselmaschinen. Fahrt bei dem Wetter 1,4 Knoten.
Hi, this is Doctor 612 here. I'm going to show you how to determine a target's speed and to get a good estimate on the range without using the mini-map and without using your crew to calculate a firing solution for you. This is an old technique, goes back to the 1930s. How do I know that? Because I served in the Navy, in the U.S. Navy for 8 years. I used to hunt submarines. So, anyway, I've got a contact to my east. I'm facing north, so it's to my right. I know that because my guys told me that. I'm going to go and listen to the contact on my sonar station here. Notice I'm at periscope depth. My engines are off, full stop. Now keep in mind that depending on the water temperature and depth and factors like that, which I don't think they inputted into the game, but some of it they did put into the game, you may have to be deeper in order to hear a contact. So just because you don't hear it at snorkel depth doesn't mean it's not there. You need to just go a little deeper, usually below 20 meters, and it should be fine. Okay, so I've got contact here. To listen to it. It sounds like probably emerging contact. It's got a low number of revolutions, which means it's traveling pretty slowly, probably less than 10 knots. It's at 9060. So, I'm going to go and check it out. I'm going to my attack periscope. This is a much higher periscope. Allows you to stay a little deeper and vary the depth of periscope a little better. Now, I'm going to turn my mini-map off. I'm not going to use it. And I'm not going to use my XO. I'm going to slew to 60 degrees. And there's the target. Okay, so here's a helpful rule about distance. Generally speaking, in this game, if you're going from 1x and you zoom to 4x, it doesn't let you zoom to 2 or 3x. Here is what the distances are, and this is a rough estimate, but if the ship takes up the full screen, that is from bow to stern, right to left or left to right of your periscope view, the target's about 1 kilometer away. If it's 2/3 of the screen, it's about 2 kilometers away. If it's 1/3 of the screen, it's about 3 kilometers away. Similarly, if you're at 1x power, if the target is taking up the full view at 1x, it's about 400 meters away. If it's 2/3, it's about 800 meters away. If it's 1/3 of the screen, it's about 1 kilometer away. Okay? This guy, as you can see at 1x, he's very small. I zoom in here. He's not even quite 1/3 of the screen yet. So he's probably more than 3 kilometers away. Right? So I'm stationary. The ship is traveling from my starboard side towards my port. So he's closing. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how to determine the speed of the contact. Okay? So first thing we need to do is to identify it, but in order for that to, or for me to do that now, I have to speed up the game and let them come closer, so that's what I'm going to do for you. Okay, that's fair enough. Alright, I can tell that he has two masts in the forward half of the ship, and one mast in the aft half of the ship, and he's got a relatively small cabin and a small stack. So I'm going to go to my shipwrecky, the freighters, and I'm going to look for a ship that looks about like that. This guy's pretty close. It's possible, except that his masts are not quite as elaborate. Okay, here we go. That's one possibility. One more here. Okay, this mast and stack combination matches the ship that I'm just looking at. This is the Liberty cargo ship. Now, note here that his length is 142 meters. We're going to use that to calculate speed. Okay. Now, here's some rules about how to do this. This works if they're within about 2 kilometers or so. And what you're going to do is you're going to place the crosshairs on his bow, or close to his bow, then you're going to turn your clock on, and as the bow crosses the crosshairs, you're going to start your clock, and when the stern crosses the crosshairs, you'll stop your clock, and you're going to use that time to calculate speed. Okay? Now this works when they are plus or minus 30 degrees of 90 from their angle on the bow. That is, there's a guy standing on the bow and he was looking at my submarine. The angle of my that he's looking at me from is 90 degrees, plus or minus 30 degrees of that, and this technique works. Okay, so he's probably, I'd say, maybe 60 degrees or so right now. So I'm going to go ahead and start calculating his speed. So I'm going to wait till the bow gets to the crosshairs and start my clock. Speed it up a little bit for you. Okay. So he is, I started a little bit soon, so he's about 40, it took about 43 seconds or so. And now we're going to calculate his speed. Now here's how you do it. It's a very simple calculation. Bring up my calculator here. It's 142 feet long. We know that from our intelligence guys. And we are going to divide that by approximately 44 seconds. We get 3.3 meters per second. Multiply that by 3,600 seconds in an hour. You get 11,888 meters, or 11.8 kilometers. Divide this by 1.85, which is the conversion to knots, which is what you need, and you get 6,426, or 6.4 knots. So I'm going to round down to 6 knots. And we're back in the game. Okay, so I know he's doing 6 knots. Now, how far away is he? Well, that's a good question. I don't know that exactly, but I'm going to estimate. So using my rule of threes here for distance, I'm at full zoom, and he's not quite at 2/3 of the way across the screen yet, so I'm going to let him get there. I'll speed it up a little bit for you. Okay, back at normal time. And he's pretty much there. So he's about 2 kilometers away, according to my 2/3 rule. Okay, so I'm going to set my distance forward 2 kilometers. So I'm going to turn this on the manual. Okay, and I've already set it 6 knots. Now I need to know what the angle on the bow is, and just judging from looking at him and where my periscope is facing, notice that 0, or directly in front of the submarine, is here. If you go across here, that would be 90 degrees. I'm going to go to my right to where he is, center of the ship, and that's about 15 degrees. So I'm going to subtract 15 degrees from 90, which gives me 75 degrees. Okay. Now I'm not going to fire until until I have a solution. I'm lined up on the center of the ship. That's when I'll release my torpedoes, right on the cabin. I'm going to release 2. And I have to get my angle on the bow set up. Okay, so I'm going to go set that 75 degrees, and actually I'm pretty close to it right now. I'm going to give him a little bit of leeway here, considering the fact that by the time I shoot him, he's going to have moved a little bit. So if you notice down here, where my cursor is, I'm at about 75, 77 degrees. Okay, I'm going to move my bearing to 15 degrees, which I'm pretty close to now. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm at about 75 degrees on my angle off the bow. Notice how this is port side, because he's moving from right to left. So if you have it over here on the starboard side, the torpedoes are going to go in the other direction. So I've got a pretty good solution. So now I'm going to open my torpedo 2 doors. Okay. I'm not going to do anything fancy here. Notice I did not actually identify or put into the TDC, their tactical data computer, what type of ship it is. So, but I know, having looked at the recce here, his draft is 5.8 meters. So if I want to, I can lower my torpedo depth a little bit. Okay, so about 3.6 meters. And what that does is basically helps flood the ship faster. Okay. All right, I'm right about at firing point now. So as soon as I hit unpause, I'm going to fire. And before I do that, I should tell you I don't know if this is going to work for sure. I've done it many times before, but we'll go ahead and see if this works. Here we go. Okay, I launched 2 torpedoes. Always shoot at the center of the ship. That way, it gives you some leeway, forward or aft, or port or starboard. I've got my clock here, and when the blue hand here reaches the red is when the torpedoes should impact. I don't know if they're going to impact or not. I do have my mini map, and I do have it set so that the sonarman will tell me where the ship is. So we'll go ahead and take a look at it. Spoiler here. Looks like I'm on target. So we'll see. Okay, so you notice this little blue hand and the red hand, when those line up, are when the torpedoes should impact. I'm going to keep this running normal time for the suspense because I don't know what's going on. Let's take a look. Oh, too close. Oh, a bow hit. Okay.
Torpedotreffer. Rohr 1 erreicht. Torpedotreffer.
There we go. Looks like I may have sunk them there. Yep. Looks like it did. Alright, so there you go. That's how you determine range and speed using an old technique dating back to the 1930s, believe it or not. And I hope you enjoyed it. And leave some comments for me if you liked it. And if not, well, not too bad. Alright. Have a good time with the game, and I'll see you guys around. Bye-bye.